Everybody, welcome to class today. I said this in the comments, but I'm just going to reiterate everything that I said. So basically today is going to be our last class of this session. Afterwards, what we're going to do is make a summer camp, and we're not really sure exactly like how long it's going to be or what kind of projects we're going to do or how we're going to do it, if we're going to do it over YouTube or over Zoom. So we're still trying to figure all of that stuff out, which is why we're going to stop doing our classes after today. But that being said, if you have been checking out our YouTube channel at any point, you'll know that we have a ton of projects that you guys can check out and try out. And if there's any project in particular that you want to see done either over the summer or on a video on our channel, just let us know in the comments and we will try to make that for you, or find a way to get the information to you so that you can do it on your own. So we also are going to so today what we're going to do is learn how to make our character launch a projectile. So because we only had one class, it wasn't really enough time to make Mario itself, but important parts of Mario would be being able to launch a projectile and also being able to have platforms. So that would basically be if I had, like, let's say a line that I made right here, that if my character jumped, it would be able to jump and land onto that platform. So hopefully we'll have time to get to that during class today. If not, I will try to post a video of it to our YouTube channel within the next week or so that we can get that for you guys, because I know that that's an important part of Mario, and it's also something that a lot of people have been asking for when they need help with a game. So if you're just tuning in, we are going to be continuing on with our project from 2 weeks ago. So it was the class where we talked about doing the gravity. It's so laggy. Okay. Let's see. Hopefully it's better now. Let me know if there's any issues with the video or the streaming. It seems like it's okay, but someone said it was laggy. Maybe if it's kind of laggy for you, you can try to pause the video, wait a minute, and then catch up with us. That might help. So let's see. What was I saying? Like I said, we are continuing on with our project from 2 weeks ago where we created our gravity, basically like interaction on here. So what we have so far, let me reload this, is we have a character who can jump, and then we have an enemy that comes out at a random speed towards our character. So this is what we have so far. If you don't have this yet, you can totally just go back to our class from 2 weeks ago where we talked about gravity, do that project, and then you can come back and catch up with us, or you can just try to follow along with what we're doing today and go back and do the rest of the project later. It won't quite work out as well, but if you just want to follow along for today and not code, then you'll learn something, and you can always go back and watch this video again. Also, just a reminder that you can pause, rewind, and then you can catch back up to the video live. You can ask questions at any time. If you, let's say you're going back and watching the other video, you can always come back to this message board to ask questions. There's two of us here, it's me and Yuval, and so we'll be able to answer your questions as they're coming in, and we should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to just quickly go over everything that we have. So we have our rect mode in center mode. I know you guys can't really see that, but you know what rect mode center looks like at this point. Also, let me know if I need to zoom in on my screen at all. Awesome. Okay, so it seems like some people added some stuff onto here, which is super cool. You can totally use like just the base game for this, or you can use the one that you added a bunch of stuff to. It'll work the same either way. All right, so we have our background, our no stroke, just setting the scene. We have our fill and a rectangle for the ground, fill and a rectangle for our character that's attached to player Y. And then we have velocity, gravity, and the player's Y that all come together to make our gravity. We have it so that if the player's Y value is greater than 225, it stays at 225. That's so it doesn't fall through the ground. We have, if we press our space bar, our character will jump. And then we just have some code for our enemy, basically making it so that if the enemy goes off the screen, they come back, and they come back at a random speed every time. And then we also have something that checks the distance between the player and the enemy, just making it so that right now the enemy just stops, which is, it's fine. We can add on some more to that so that it's a little bit better. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to make a big old space down here because we're going to write in some new code here, but we're actually going to start up at the top by creating a few new variables. So like I said, for class today, what we're going to do is make it so that our character can basically throw a ball at our enemy, and then we'll make it so that if it hits the enemy, it stops. And ways that we can think about this are, if the ball hits the character, you could make it so that you win the game, you could make it so that you get a point, you could make it so that you get 5 points every time you hit it, and 1 point every time you jump over it, something like that. Or maybe the other way around, because it's going to be kind of easy to hit it with your ball, but you'll see that we can modify it a little bit to make it a harder game, make it an easier game, or just to make it like a different type of game. So I'm going to show you how we can do this, and I'm going to show you how to do it using timers as well. I really like using timers because I think that they're a good way to visualize what you're doing, and they're a good way to think about how you can connect two different variables that maybe aren't super related and make them into something that relates. So that's what we're going to do, and I think it'll turn out good. So we're going to go back up to our variables, and we are going to make 3 new variables. So we're going to make one for our ball's x value. I'm just going to name my projectile ball. So I'm going to name it ball x and ball y. Those are 2 variables, and then I'm going to make a 3rd variable for a timer. So I have var space ball x equals, and I'm going to have it be, I'm going to basically have it so that my character is like holding it, and my character is actually right there, so I'm going to make it 350. Yours might not have, and I'm doing it on the x value of my character, right? So yours character might not have an x value of 350. Find that x value, match it up. Okay, and then for ball y, that one is actually just going to equal 0. You'll see that later on we're actually going to attach it to another variable. And there's a couple of ways that we could have done this, but I think that this is going to make the most sense to everyone at this point. So we have our ball x equaling 350, which is the x value here, ball y equals 0, and then I'm going to make a variable called timer that equals 0 as well. Okay, and so now the next thing that I'm going to do is scroll down to this big old bottom space down here, and what I actually want to do is display our text. So we're going to display text for our timer so that we can keep track of where it's at, and we'll erase this at the end of the game once we get it all set up and like ready to go, but it'll just be a good way for us to see what we're doing actually in action. So we're going to move down to the bottom of our code, making sure that we're still inside of this curly bracket that makes up the ending of function draw, and we are going to make a line. So first I'm going to do a text size. Make sure that you do a capital S there and you don't put a space between text and size. When you're writing your code, you want to make sure you're doing as few spaces in there as possible when it comes to attaching 2 words, because 99% of the time there's no space between the two words. Hopefully that makes sense. Instead of a space, what we're basically going to do is capitalize that second word. So it's just text size or text font or no stroke. Instead of having a space between the two words, you just capitalize the first letter of the second word. So we have text size. I'm going to make mine like 30. Like I said, this isn't going to stay on your screen forever, so don't worry about making it pretty. You don't have to change the font. The size I'm just doing so that you guys can read it really easily, but you don't have to change your text size. And then in the text, normally when we write a text function, we want to use quotation marks, and then whatever's inside of the quotation marks is going to be written on our screen. When we want to display a variable, we actually just want to write the name of the variable. So I'm just going to write timer, and I'm just going to put it at 100. All right, so we had set our timer to equal 0 up here, and now it's displaying as 0 over here. So let me know how you guys are doing. Let me know if you need me to slow down or speed up. I'm trying to go slower this class, but let me know if I'm going too slow. I'm trying to also go quickly so that we have time to do our do platforms at the end, but if not, we'll just make a video for it and that'll be fine. All right, so we have our timer displayed, and the next thing that I'm going to do is actually make it so that the timer goes up, right? So normally when we increase something, we want it to go up like by 1 every time that something happens, like if we're doing a score or something like that. In this case, we just want our timer to count up in seconds. And what I'm going to do is say timer equals timer plus 1, and you're going to see that it's going to go super, super fast. So we could leave it like this, but I think that it's a little bit distracting. It's kind of hard to read. I just think that it'll be a lot easier for us to do it actually in seconds that we're familiar with. So instead of doing 1, you're going to do plus 1 divided by 60, and that actually is a nice slow count of seconds. But you'll notice that we have that annoying string of numbers at the end. So that's because we need to actually round this timer. So what we're going to do is go up to where we did our text, and we're going to write round and then a set of parentheses. So now we have our timer, but it's rounded. Hopefully that makes sense. So all that I did was make it so that timer equals timer plus 1 divided by 60. The frame rate that function draw is going through is, okay. So, sorry guys, give me 1 second. I'm going to help somebody. Oh, okay. Nathan fixed his error himself. Good for you, Nathan. All right, so like I was saying, everything in function draw is getting read at 60 times every second, right? So that's super fast. So if it reads 60 times every second, that it needs to add 1/60th of the time. That's why we have those annoying decimals at the end. But that also makes it so that by the time it reads through the whole thing, 1 second has been completed. So we get that nice display of 1 second. So to make it displayed as a nice 1 second interval, we just go up to the text function and make sure that we write round, and then in parentheses we're going to put that variable for timer. And round is just a built-in function that the computer already knows. So it knows when it sees that to round the number that we are talking about. All right, so it seems like everybody's doing pretty well. Again, let me know if you have any questions. And then also, the description has the link for you to submit your projects if you need help with them. So let's say that you have a little bug in your code and it's really not going away no matter what you try. You can share your project with us there, and then at the end there's a little button that you can press that says either I just want to share it or I need help. Okay, so let's keep going. So we have our timer displayed now. How are we going to use that? So what we're going to do is, well, actually first let's just display our ellipse for our projectile. So I'm going to write projectile here. Then I'm going to write ellipse, E-L-L-I-P-S-E, and I'm going to put it at ball X and ball Y. Remember those variables that we made earlier. And then I'm going to just make mine 10 by 10. I think that'll be nice and small. And another thing I'm going to do, it's kind of annoying to have to deal with the enemy just like randomly sorry guys, the rectangle just randomly going on the screen. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to comment out the line where I make the enemy actually move. So I'm going to make it now so the enemy doesn't move. And that'll make it a lot easier for us to do this. So you'll see that now my ellipse is up here. That's because I told ball X to be 350 and ball Y to be 0. But what I actually want is I want ball Y to equal player Y plus 10. And the reason that I'm doing it this way is so that when I jump, the ball comes with us. Because otherwise the ball would stay down, and then when the enemy ran through it, it would run over the projectile, which would make it so that it basically gets hit even though it doesn't get hit. So it would have been a whole thing. And it's just easier to do it this way. So this way it's attached. It actually looks like our character is like holding this. You can make it so that there's a few of these. You could make it so that the code for the ellipse is before the code for your character so that it kind of hides behind your character. So it looks more like it's coming out of the inside. You could also make it the same color as your character to achieve that same objective. Hopefully that makes sense. I think it's easier to just change the color of it so it's the same color as your character, but it's up to you. Okay, so we have our projectile, and now when we press our spacebar and make our character jump, it's coming with us. So now we need to make it so that it will actually shoot out, right? And that's where our timer is going to come in handy. So what we're going to do is make it so that and I'm going to make it so that our projectile is launched by clicking the mouse. You can make it so that it's another key. I just think using the mouse is, like using the mouse to shoot and then the spacebar to jump is just a really easy setup that I thought would be good for this game. So I'm just writing in if, and then in parentheses, mouse, capital I is, capital P pressed, and then a set of curly brackets. I have my opening curly bracket and my closing curly bracket. And inside of there, I'm going to make my timer equal 100. So I'm showing you a way to do this that we're going to attach our timer to our ball being able to shoot. So basically, if I had said, if mouse is pressed, I wanted the ball to move, it would only happen when I had my mouse pressed. It's the same with a key. So if I had said ball X equals ball X plus 1, or let's do -1 so it moves to the left. And this is just, I just think this is the best way for us to do this today, given everyone's skill level. I just think it's for the best. So see, I'm clicking my mouse, and it's only moving every time that I click and hold down the mouse. It's also going super slow. It will go faster eventually. But keep in mind that that's not what we're looking for, right? We want it to happen so that you click once and the ball shoots out, right? So that's why inside of if mouse is pressed, we're going to say timer equals 100. And 100 is just a number that I chose because I thought that, you know what, the timer's never going to go up to 100 just naturally. Like, you're never going to go 100 seconds between shots, basically. You could make this 500, you could make it way more than that. It doesn't really matter. I just chose 100. Okay, so then what we need to say is, okay, what happens if the timer is over 100? What do we want to happen then? So what I'm going to say is if, in parentheses, our timer is greater than or equal to 100, so if our timer ever gets to the point where it's over 100, which we already told it to equal 100 at one point, so if that happens, then I'm going to have my ball move at that point. So I'm going to just do -5 for now. So I said if my timer is greater than or equal to 100, then I want my ball x to equal ball x minus 5. Okay, so now when I click, you can see the timer. Keep an eye on the timer when I'm clicking. So it moves from like 2 seconds or 3 seconds, whatever it is. Oops, there we go. So you'll see that it automatically will go up to 100 as soon as I click. So right now it's at 3 seconds. When I click, it goes up to 100 and keeps counting up. So the reason that we want to do it if our timer is greater than or equal to 100 is because our timer is still counting up, right? So our projectile is technically still moving off the canvas somewhere. So what we need to do is we need to find a way to reset our timer. So we need to reset our timer, and we also need to reset where our ball is so that it comes back to us. So let's see, someone's having a timer issue, timer not appearing. So make sure that you have your text size in there. It might be a fill issue. You might need to do a fill and then a 0 so that you can see it, because it might be that your background is like the same color as your text. It could also be that your text is just too small and you're not noticing it, so you might want to put a text size in there if you don't already. Also make sure that you have your parentheses in the right spot here. This is kind of a tricky line to write, but Yuval did write it, so it should be working. Or that line that he wrote, if you copy and paste that, that'll work. There we go. Okay, so we have our text, our timer, projectile. I'm going to add in some comments here. Let me know if you guys need me to slow down or speed up. We're doing pretty good on time right now. Okay. Another issue that you might be having is if you accidentally did ball x plus 5, your ball will move to the right. So as we go to the left, our x numbers get smaller, which is what we want. Okay, so I feel like we are ready to move on to the next step. We're getting pretty close to wrapping it up for this part, but we do need to add in a few things that will make it look like a real game before we can get into how to make whatever they're called. Can't think today. Platforms, that's what they're called. Okay, so the next thing that we want to do is make it so that our ball comes back and also resets our timer when it comes back. So what we're going to do here is make it so that if, in parentheses, ball X is less than or equal to 100, or sorry, less than or equal to 0. So basically, if our ball goes off the screen and goes all the way over here, then what we want to happen is we want our ball X to equal 350. So it just goes back to where it starts. And we want our timer to equal 0. So that goes back to where it started as well. Awesome. All right, so now we have a character that can jump and can shoot. And you'll notice that when you're basically throwing it, it'll follow the Y coordinate of your character, so you can make it so it kind of jumps. I think there is a way that we can make it so that doesn't happen. We would basically just have to make it so that the ball's Y coordinate down here gets moved somewhere else. But because it's attached to the player's Y value, it's a little bit tricky to get that perfect. And I think that it's actually kind of a hidden, like a hard hitting rule of the game that you kind of need to like come up with some strategy for to make it so that, you know, you have that all worked out. But you guys can choose if you want it like that or not. You'll see what I mean when we start playing it. That was confusing. Okay, so I'm going to scroll up a little bit. We should be all good to go here. But the one thing that you'll notice is that we're checking our distance between our player and our enemy so that our player basically can lose the game. But we're not checking the distance between the ball and the enemy so that the enemy can disappear or get smaller, maybe, if you want to have it be that, or whatever it is that you want to happen to your enemy. So we need to add in another distance formula. So we're going to go right down below where we did our ball X, coming back onto the screen. And I don't know if I showed you guys, but now it works. So it comes back and our timer resets to 0 and our ball's X coordinate goes back to 350. You could also make this so it's not, if you want it to go longer basically between each time that it can shoot, what you can do is make this number a bigger a smaller negative number. So that would be basically a bigger actual number, but with a minus sign in front of it. So this way our character goes all the way off the screen, doesn't come back until it hits negative 100. If I made this negative 1000, it would have to go even longer between the shots that it was taking. So you'll see now it's not working, it's not working. There it is. And one of the nice things about our ball, doing our ball this way, is that you can't shoot it basically multiple times. So you can't just keep clicking and just have a ton of them come out all at once. It's just one. So that makes it a little bit more fair of a game. So I'm going to set that back to negative 100, or actually I'm going to make it 0 because that's what we had made it at the beginning. And I'm going to go down here and we're going to work on our distance. So I know that some people have been having a harder time with distance. It's a little bit of a trickier one to learn. So we'll do this one a little bit slower and we'll do it together. So it starts out like any other conditional statement. We're going to say if, and then in a set of parentheses, something happens. So in this case, we're going to use DIST. DIST is what the computer recognizes as distance, right? So if our distance, and then another set of parentheses. So if dist, and then we're going to write enemy x, comma, and then we're going to figure out where our enemy's y is. So our enemy's y is at 240. Okay, and then we're going to put where we have our ball. So we have ball x and ball y, right? So if the distance, and then when you put 2 points, it checks the distance between those 2 points, between enemy x and 240 being 1 point, and ball x and ball y being another point. I'm just going to say if it's less than 20 to start. You always want to play around with this number a little bit until you get it exactly the way you want it to be. Then we're going to put up our curly brackets and say if that happens, then we want something to happen. We could basically just make it so that our enemy reappears. So I think that would be a good thing to do. So you can see up here that we already have the code for resetting our enemy. So we can just copy that from where we reset our enemy and gave it a new speed if it was greater than 500. So I'm going to just paste that down there. Basically what we do is make enemy X -50, which in this case I'm going to make it -150 so there's more time between our enemies to start. And then we're going to set our enemy speed to a random number between 3 and 10. There we go. Okay, so we need to just make it so that our enemy is moving again. So go back up to where you made your enemy not move anymore. And you can see that now I can jump over my character or I can shoot at them. And the way it's turning out right now, probably because of the speed of my projectile. Probably just because of the speed of my projectile, it is able to get rid of multiple enemies. So, realizing that this needs to be a smaller number. Check something really quick. Just working on something really quick. Okay, I think we're all good. I was just playing around with some stuff to see. Yeah, okay, we're good. So now we are actually done with displaying our timer if you want to be. You can always keep it displayed if you want, but we don't have to. So you can take all of this stuff and just comment it out. And you can comment out a big chunk like that by just highlighting it and pressing Control and your slash line. So because I don't need that right now, we are all good. So I have my character, and my character can jump over enemies, and it can also shoot at them. So I don't know why it's not working now. If the distance between our enemies X. Oh yeah, I just made it too small. Okay, so something that I mentioned earlier that, you know, you can choose if it's good or bad is that our ball can knock out more than one enemy at a time. So I can show you, basically I can, hold on. So basically I can shoot it at that character, and then as the other one appears on the screen, it can also knock that one out. So we can fix this by making our ball faster. You can even make it faster than 10, but I think that 10 is probably the fastest that it'll need to go. It really depends on the speed, the maximum speed that you have for your enemy. So for example, my enemy's maximum speed is 10, so there'll never be a time that my enemy is going fast enough to get from the negative 150 that I put it at all the way onto the screen by the time that my projectile has gotten to the 0 point. So hopefully that makes sense. I am not hearing a lot from you guys, which is totally fine. I'm just going to assume that I'm going slow enough for you. I'm going to just go over how to share your projects really quickly, just as a reminder. So you click exit, and then you're going to want to click on these 3 dots here and click the share button. This is the URL that we need. This one right here, to be able to see your sketch and give you pointers on it. That's the one that we need to see. So if you give us the one from just up top here, oops, sorry, let me get my mouse back on here. Yeah, from just up here, we won't be able to see it. So make sure that you are giving us the right one. Okay, so now I have it so that if my character gets hit by our enemy, basically they die, but nothing really happens. So what we can do to make this look a little bit more polished, I don't think we really have time today to go over platforms, so I'm just going to work on making this game more polished so that it's a more playable game. So we can basically make it where we have our enemy speed change. So this is where your comments are really going to come in handy, because this is where we checked our distance between our player and our enemy, and I can see that by just reading my comments. So I can go right here, press enter to make a new line, and I can make the background, ooh, that's not how you spell background. I can just make it black or something, and then I can add some text to it that says you lost or something like that. So basically I'm just adding in a large text size. I'm adding in a fill for white, and then I am making it so that it says you lost. This would be a great place to have a play again button, or a way to go back to, like, if you have a home screen, it could go back to the home screen. 100 is way too big. So that's why I like doing game screens a lot. You guys have definitely done game screens with us so far. If you haven't, there's a ton of videos on our YouTube channel that show you how to use game screens. I think that they're the best way to make a game go from something like this, where it's like, it's okay, like, it works, but it's kind of hard to play, to something that is super fun. Yeah, so see, it's not perfect. I can still press the spacebar to get out of it, but my character's, or my enemy is not going to move anymore, so I can't technically play it. So it's also hard, I didn't think about this, but using the mouse to shoot out the projectiles makes it a little bit trickier, because you have to click on your canvas basically to make the program start. So I would definitely recommend adding in game screens to this game. We can do that actually right now super quickly. It's really, really easy. So you just make a variable, name it game screen, and then give it a value that it's equal to that's just like home, something like that. Just a word in quotation marks. And so then what you're going to do inside of function draw, you're going to say if your game screen equals home, or whatever that simple name was, then in curly brackets you're going to say what you want to happen. The next thing that you're going to want to do is take everything that we made our game with and make that so that it happens if game screen equals play. And then you're going to want to take your opening curly bracket and go all the way down to the end, still inside a function draw, but just add it in. And so you'll see that now my screen is blank, but if I change this to play, then everything will show up again. But I'm going to make it home, and we're just going to make a quick button that makes it so that you can play the game. We also can make it so that all of this you lost stuff that we just made, we're just going to make a game screen that equals, in quotation marks, you lost. Sorry, I'm going a little bit fast here. It's just because I'm trying to wrap this up. And so down here I could say, all right, if my game screen does equal you lost, then this is all the stuff I want to happen. And it was basically everything that we just had in there, but it's just going to be nicer and more put together. Okay, so then, sorry, I'm having problems with my mouse today. So then I'm going to go up to where I said if game screen equals home. Maybe I can just give it like a quick background color. And then you can give it a name if you want to and make the name look all nice. I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to make a rectangle. Oh, it's in rect mode center, huh? At 250, that's 150 wide and 100 tall. And I'm just going to write play inside of it. So I'm just going to make a text size that's pretty big. You can add a text font if you want, why not? And you can add a fill. I'm just going to make mine black. And I am going to put, I'm going to put a fill above my button that makes it white so it doesn't latch on to this other one. And then I'm just going to write text that says play. So I went over that super fast. Why is it not showing up now? Oh, I didn't give it anywhere to go. So I went over that super fast, but I'll break it down a little bit right now. So basically all that I did here was make it so that my home screen just has a play button on it. So we would have to make this into a clickable button, which we have like just enough time for, so that when we click this, we start playing our game. And you'll notice that having games set up like this, one, they're way easier to show off to people. Two, they're easier to play yourself because like I was saying, I was having a hard time with, right when the game was starting, I had to click on the canvas to get it started, but then I would also launch one of my projectiles as soon as I clicked. So if you ever do something like that, don't think of it as a mistake, just think of it as something that you have to modify your code to deal with, which, it's a lot easier to think of it like that than to have to delete everything you just worked on and totally change it. So inside of if game screen equals home, we're just going to make a quick button. So it's if mouse X is greater than, and I'm going to comment all this out, is greater than, mine is at 175, and mouse X is less than the right side, which is at 325. And again, if you don't know how to make a button, there are a ton of videos on our YouTube channel which guide you through it. So you're basically just taking the biggest and the smallest for the X value and the Y value, attaching them to your mouse X or mouse Y, and saying, all right, if my mouse is hovering somewhere inside of this square that I just created, then I want to be able to click on it. So if mouse is pressed, I'm going to be able to click on it and play the game. So we're just going to say inside of here, game screen equals, in quotation marks, oops, not home, silly me, play. And then I just have to get rid of all of these curly comment lines. Okay. Okay, so basically just if mouse X is greater than 175 and less than 325, so if my X value is somewhere between here, but then my Y value is also somewhere between 200 and 300, and if I click my mouse, then I should be able to start playing my game. You can also make it so that there's a pause between the time that you get started, like maybe there's a screen that pops up that counts down that's like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, or something like that. I have a game, I don't know if I've showed it to you guys before, but it's kind of like the game where you are, like if your internet goes out with the little, what are they? They're like dinosaurs, the little dinosaurs, that you like press the space bar and it jumps over the cactus. It's kind of like that, but I have a countdown on the screen so that you have time to get ready to play the game before it actually starts. And if you think about it, a lot of arcade games are like that too. If you've ever played like one of the driving games, they always count down on the screen until you get started. It gives you a little bit of time to like get comfortable with the controls, get ready to play the game, everything like that. So other things that you could do, you could add in a button here so that you could play again, and you would basically just have it so it redirects you to the home screen. You could also make it so that your character can move left and right. In this case, they can't move left and right. You could also make it so your character starts farther to the right. You can make a ton of different changes to this game to make it the style that you want. Okay, so let me know how you guys are doing in the comments. Let me know if you have any projects that you want to share. If you have anything that you want to share, now is the time to do it. Just a reminder that this is our last class today. We are going to be going to a summer camp style class in hopefully a few weeks. So hopefully you guys can join us for that. We don't know all the details on it yet, but if you guys are interested, we would love to know what kind of projects you want to do. You can always submit that on codenaturally.com, or you can have your parents email me, or whatever you can think of. You can post it on our Facebook page, post it on our Instagram, and just let us know what kind of projects you want. And then if you can let us know in the comments too if you guys like doing it over YouTube Live, or if you wish we did our classes over Zoom, anything like that. If there are any last minute features you guys want me to add on to my project, I can do them now. We don't have time to do the platforms today, but like I said, I'll try to get a video up on our YouTube channel that explains how to do those. We have about 10 minutes left of class. If there's anything else that you guys want me to go over, or if you have any project at all that you want to share or you need help with, share it through the link that's in the description, and I will either share it or check it out right now over my screen so that everyone can see it and we can work on it together. So, as of right now, it looks like everyone's doing okay. Also, let me know when you guys are done with school. I don't know when school gets out for the year, so let me know. I'm going to see if I can find any old projects to share with you guys from last week. Let's see, what day is it today? Okay, I'm not really seeing any from last week that anyone shared, which is totally fine. You don't have to share projects if you don't want to, but remember that you can always share them outside of class. Like if you're just randomly working on a project one day and you think it's super cool and you either need help with it or you want to share it, you can share it the same way that we share them in class. Okay. All right, well, it seems like everyone's doing okay, so I am going to just sign off for the day. Like I said, if you want to be part of our Code Naturally summer camp, talk to your parents about it. I gave them some information about a parent survey that we're doing, so you can ask them if they've done that yet. And also just let us know if there's any special projects that you want us to do over the summer. All right, well, thanks for coming to class. These have been a lot of fun to do. I hope that you guys have learned a lot and gotten a little bit of a break from your normal schoolwork and got to do something fun. I hope that you guys keep coding, whether it's with us during summer camp or just on your own at home. And just know that we are always available to help, whether it's replying to your comment on a YouTube video or replying to something that you post on our social media or our little like ask us anything form on our website. So be sure to reach out if you need help. We're always there to help you. Your parents should all have my email address and they can email me at any time to ask for help for you. So hopefully you guys will all be good to go. Well, have a good rest of your school year. And hopefully we'll see you guys for summer. Bye!